So at this point in time, I would probably say it's really not all that shocking that a lot of racing games do look incredible. I mean, heck, dude, graphics have come a very long way. But one thing I was thinking about though is, does anybody else kind of feel like a lot of modern racing games have like a similar structure? A lot of the progression almost feels the same, and the end game is also kind of on top of it, where that's like probably one of the most discussed things in most racing games nowadays is the end game. But in ways though, it kind of makes me wonder why so many racing games almost feel the same, even though in a lot of ways they are technically different. Now, the first thing I also want to clarify real quick is I am not saying every racing game is bad. In fact, I feel like even though a lot of the games may have flaws, there is still a lot of fun to be had in most of them. But what I am talking about here is the design patterns. We are not going to touch on graphics and also physics and stuff like that because we all do know most games nowadays obviously look good. And I feel like every game has their own distinct idea to the physics design of them. So there really isn't nothing insane there. Like if you're arcade racing, you're thinking of Need for Speed, or even something like Motorfest, right? If you're thinking of more of like the Simcade-ish type, or a little bit more realistic than arcade, you probably think of Forza. If you're thinking like a full-on sim type of cade-ish thing, you're probably thinking of Gran Turismo. I say Simcade because people may argue that it's not full-on sim, but that's a different discussion. Either way, though, a lot of people have kind of been talking about this, how the progression loop in a lot of racing games nowadays are just kind of odd. I mean, a lot of the rewards you get come way too quick. Cars kind of lose meaning in a way when you get them too easy, right? That's probably why so many people have been talking with Forza Horizon 6 and this stuff, and like, can we please, have the wristband thing back? People have been talking about having progression, not getting the cars quicker. They want to actually feel like the cars are being earned to them when they are doing harder races, leveling up, getting things, instead of really not getting them super quick, because what that would end up doing, at least for a lot of people, is it could end up taking the end goal away. Now, what's funny about this is I do feel like this could have a few different sides to it, man. I mean, you could literally probably have the other side of people going, I don't want to do these races. I want every car now. So, I mean, it might be kind of hard to win if you know what I mean. But the thing is though, if you are probably trying to have a better understanding of a racing game nowadays, you'd probably not want to get the best vehicles way too quick. This could almost be like getting a hypercar or super high-end vehicle before you've even went to most of the map, right? Like you already have those cars before you actually even did anything on the map. This is a really interesting point because a lot of people look at old racing games, and honestly, dude, I went back and played a lot of them, so I can name off a few here. I'm not going to name off like 15 games, but a few I will go right off the bat though. Midnight Club Los Angeles, and I will also say, for the sake of this, Need for Speed Carbon. All right, those are the two I will name right now. And let's be real though, we could probably name off multiple other games, but I feel like those are good starting points with it. I mean, you pretty much start in the game, you get a terrible vehicle, you have to go through the rankings, do more races, upgrade that car slowly. You'll probably be tight on cash the entire time. You really can't just go out and buy like a Lambo, then beat the entire game. You know what I'm saying? Like, those obviously give you that sense of progression. And the thing is, that's kind of odd to me that I've been thinking about a lot with this, though, guys, is even though a lot of the new maps in these racing games are clearly bigger than most things that we have, the maps are huge. But what's interesting to me, though, is even though these maps are very big in racing games nowadays, I feel like just because the maps are big, dude, it doesn't necessarily mean the game is actually good. And I want to touch on this because, again, why are all racing games feeling the same? Because everything nowadays have to have a huge open world. This could probably stem past racing games, honestly, but I'll touch on that in a different video if you guys would like, because obviously, just because you can make the biggest map ever doesn't mean it's going to make the game better. You know what I'm saying? Kind of a wild topic, but either way, though, if you are looking at a really big open world racing game, you probably want to have the entire map fitting into the mechanics of that racing game. You know what I'm saying? You don't want that racing game to just feel like a backdrop, like, ooh, it's so pretty. Yes, it is really pretty, but do you have anything to do on the parts of the map or in the areas on how beautiful that map looks? Like, you want to just see copy and pasted areas or different locations that are just there, but you're not really utilizing it, man. Like, I feel like in old racing games, obviously a lot of the maps weren't as big, right? But the thing is, you would still jump into those maps and be sucked into it, man. Like, we all do know Midnight Club Los Angeles wasn't a huge map. obviously. But you know what, though? I could still drive around there, race on that map for hours on end, bro. And the insane part is, even though the map wasn't as large as the newer racing games are, you can still get sucked into it. I mean, heck, just driving around Carbon was pretty fun, dude. Like, it's kind of weird. Maybe it's like the vibing of how the games are nowadays on the fact that, yes, we all have these big open worlds. They might look different, but in ways they still play the same because the games could be piggybacking off each other of what one game might do great. They can go, oh, let's grab that and put it in there. Let's add that into it because, yeah, that makes a lot of sense. If we, look at that homework and copy it, but make it look different, you know what I'm saying? Like, that will work, but most people end up noticing it, especially if they play a lot of racing games or different ones for that matter. They'll be like, oh, yeah, I can see how they took it from this or that, and, yeah, that ain't gonna work, bruh. And the thing is, you might be wondering exactly what I do mean by how they need to utilize the maps. And let me explain this very quick here. So we have something like Forza Horizon where you could see a lot of different roads, a lot of off-road areas, a lot of different things. That game does have the event lab, so obviously that's a little bit different, like the event lab island thing. But you can also go on there and make races around the map and fill in different zones and stuff like that. Because you have all the roads, there's definitely different race designs you can do, right? When I'm looking at how these racing games are, I can obviously bring in Motorfest in this, as I have played the game a lot. I've been playing the Crew series since the Crew 1. Literally early Crew 1, I started in that series, bro. So it's been over 9 years I've been playing it. And what's super frustrating is Motorfest map is absolutely beautiful. It's very nicely designed. I love it. But I feel like they've completely wasted the map's potential in so many ways, man, because there are so many areas for off-roading they could do. There's so many areas for plane races because there's an open sky there. There's also water everywhere for the boats. There are so many places that races can take place, but I feel like even though it's all there, they're not actually utilizing it, and they're focusing on the same things in that game, which is basically street and hyper. Kind of like the same categories. I do know those are the most popular, but again, you are kind of getting into the territory to where what is actually setting this game apart, though, man. It kind of just feels like something else that I've been talking about, which is something we don't want, man. We want the games to actually feel different. We don't want to have basically every single game kind of just staying similar or every racing game just piggybacking off each other because, again, one might be popular or one isn't. Do that. Long term, man, I just feel like it doesn't really work. You all know the entire saying of the game really can't be for everybody, right? Like, we all do know there'll be some points in each game that players won't like or people won't like. I mean, heck, dude, look at Elden Ring or even Lies of P is something I've been playing a bit recently. Not everybody's going to like the games, right? Not everyone's going to enjoy it. Some people may hate Forza, they may hate the way cars handle, but they can get on Motorfest and love the way the cars handle. Either way, though, with how you do look at these games, whether it's like Dark Souls or Elden Ring or Lies of P, or we have like Motorfest, Need for Speed, Forza, we have something like Gran Turismo. Either way, though, not every single game is designed for everybody, right? I mean, that's kind of like the main goal. At least I think that's something they should be doing, man. We all do know a lot of games nowadays follow the entire live service thing, right? Which we can all agree with could work. But let's be honest, man, it has completely destroyed many games, if I'm being real. And that's something that I feel like how all the games are designed around that could also be hurting them tremendously on why so many of these racing games, again, feel the same. That also brings me back to the other part, though, is I'm not saying games back then were better. I'm not saying players haven't changed, but the thing is, I don't know if players have actually changed, man. I think design priorities have. And the reason why I say that is we didn't actually get harder to please, guys, okay? That's something I've been seeing in places too. No, I kind of think a lot of games nowadays, man, just they kind of just stop taking risks. You know what I mean? Like, we could probably in ways go back and look at something like Blur, Split Second, even something like Need for Speed The Run. A lot of these games, you could tell they were trying to do something different. They weren't trying like the norm thing. Am I right? One of the examples of this, guys, I could even say right off the bat is Forza Horizon 1 once that game was out for a bit. We also had the Crew 1, right? And later on in the Crew 1, they did end up adding the entire, what was it, the Wild Run update, which made the game better, but also completely destroyed it in so many ways, dude. Like, it almost looked like they were trying to make the game like Forza in a way, and that was something I thought about back then. Like, yes, the graphics might have looked a little better and stuff, but everyone's like, no, we want to go back, bro. We want the games to actually feel unique in a certain aspect, and I think taking a risk in the racing games or kind of going above and beyond is probably the only way to do that, man. And we could probably see this in the gaming industry everywhere, where a lot of games are kind of just jumping and looking at each other going, ooh, that's cool. Let's try that. Oh, and then they release it, and guess what? You hear crickets, bro. The game's cool for like a week and then it just dies off because a lot of players might tend to look at some of these things on these games and go, oh, yeah, we did this, or oh, this is super similar to this, or why does this feel exactly like this game? It's just something I've been seeing everywhere, dude. I feel like if a lot of these games really went down and took risk more and actually tried to be different in a lot of ways, which I feel like a lot of the games nowadays, they just don't really do that like they used to, which funny part is if they did, they probably do way better actually setting themselves apart tremendously. You know what I'm saying? One thing I gotta admit though, on the more positive side, guys, I'm sorry, I just had to talk about this today, man. It's been on my mind for a minute with how racing games have been, dude. I mean, I feel like a lot of people are probably in a similar boat. But one thing I am excited for is I gotta throw Forza Horizon 6 into this, is I do feel like looking at something like 5, we can at least say 5 years later after that game came out, it looks like it's actually taking some different standpoints with things, man, which I'm happy about. The garages thing is awesome. We do know a lot of racing games have those, but funny part is they also don't. Motorfest doesn't have it. Forza doesn't have that type of thing. The new Test Drive has like a mild garage thing in there, but it's still not like a house thing, obviously. So at least that game has it, which is cool. But besides that, though, we also have GTA. Need for Speed doesn't have that either. So it's like, okay, that's a cool thing. Then we'll have the slower progression where you have to start in slower cars. Again, that is something that a lot of players have been asking for in most games. So I'm really curious to see how all of it plays out. Because let's be real, guys, a lot of games nowadays definitely need some type of differences to them. So seeing some of this stuff in like the trailer honestly made me really happy, dude, because I don't think players could take another game that might actually look the same. Now, before you say anything to that, everyone's like, well, it's the exact same game with a different skin. Well, the thing is, it's a series of the said game, bro. So it will take a lot of great things from the old games, which obviously we are seeing that, and then build upon that. We do know the game will look fantastic. Again, graphics are really not the issue nowadays. I would say most people would agree. But y'all know what I was just thinking about too, is maybe they should start making more maps intentional in these racing games and really actually make them feel set apart. You know what I'm saying? Like, if you want to add all that cool stuff in there, really utilize that stuff to make the game feel different. Which, again, I feel like Japan, honestly, is looking pretty dope, dude, because it can actually utilize many of those things. If you actually have a game that is different like Motorfest, really jump in, man, and just go crazy with it. Like, have all that really cool, unique stuff in there because the map's fully capable of it. Make the game actually feel different. Again, why try to have the game feeling similar to other games when it's clear that the game could take its own direction? I feel like players would truly love that more than anything of the games feeling similar, like clones to each other, or they are clear seeing that they kind of copied things from one game when they probably could have went their own direction with it. Maybe racing games don't feel the same because they are bad, but because maybe they're afraid to be different, dude. Maybe that's what it is. Maybe they just following what the trendy stuff is and all that. Maybe they don't want to actually take like a step backwards and really go, okay, let's do this and this to really like just step out. Maybe that's a big issue, dude. And the one way I look at this though is maybe seeing new racing games come out, like seeing Forza Horizon 6 launching in May. Maybe that might end up sparking some other games to really step it up and realize what they actually have and realize what they could do with it, or even just make games better in general, because we all do know competition, at least normally, means it is a good thing in that industry or basically everything. So all we can really do is wait and see at this point, man, of what one game will end up doing to the other ones, because we all do know if the game's obviously really good or very popular, then other racing games might be like, oh, that's a good idea there, dude, and then we could end up seeing changes in other things, or, you know, when a new game comes out, we could see some new ideas that have a twist on what they did. Only time will tell, dude. But the biggest thing I want to leave y'all with is, why do all the racing games feel the same to you? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. Another way to look at it is, what was the last racing game that you actually played that felt truly new to you or really hit you? For me, to be honest, I would probably say Forza Horizon 4, man. Going back and playing the old Forzas, it hit me. It still is going back and playing them, dude. Let me know what y'all think in the comments below about all of this. I am super curious. I feel like a lot of people are kind of thinking similar to this stuff at this point, man. And maybe that's actually a good thing, because now we could end up seeing more changes in the future. especially with new racing games coming out and stuff like that. Maybe we'll see new approaches, different things that will really make the games feel different again instead of like seeing copies or clear signs that they're like, oh, that game's doing really well. Let's take what they're doing and put a twist on it. That could work, but also when it looks too similar, people probably start to question it.